So the day after we volunteered at the Paulist Center, Ben and I went out on the streets of Boston to talk to some actual homeless people. And I just wanted to share a little bit of my impressions and a little bit of the experience with you guys. And I'll try not to take too long, but I was a little hesitant to go out initially and approach them and talk to them because I guess you never know what people's reaction is going to be when you ask them to share their story. I didn't know if people were going to be aggressive towards us or if they were actually going to be willing to talk with the little flip cam on their face. So I was actually surprised that we got 3 interviews, let's say, and a couple of people just told us off. But people didn't seem to bother with the camera, or I didn't even know if they realized we were recording them. But I was my first thing was that I come from a place where there is a lot of poverty and there is a lot of homelessness, and you just see people out on the streets all the time, and people usually say, oh, that we don't see that in the States, but it's actually not true. The first person we talked to was right by school, right at Dunkin' Donuts, and it's the man that usually opens the door for everyone, and when people walk out, they just throw him some change. And he was interesting, but you can watch his little video on the website as well. I just wanted to talk about this one experience, which was, I wouldn't say personal, but it was something that I wanted to do. I drive to school every day, and there's always this woman at the set of lights right before Emerson by Park Plaza that I see begging almost every day. And she usually has her little sign that says she had a stroke, and she's usually crying. And that always intrigued me, but I never had the guts to get out of my car and talk to her or even give her money. I just never did it. So we walked there and to try to see if she was there, but she wasn't. So we were walking to like the Park Street area, and then we walked by her right at the garden. And we stopped her, and we had a good 15-20 minute conversation with her. She is 47 years old, and she's been on the streets for 8 years. She told us she had a stroke, and that's kind of what that was like the straw that broke the camel's back for her to be out on the streets completely. And she said she had drug abuse problems, and her husband passed away. She said she suffered domestic violence, and she gave her son away. Her son is now 20, and I think she gave him away when he was 13. And she's been on the street since then. She said she has a place to sleep, but she can't take anybody over, and blah, blah, blah. So we were just talking to her, and it was interesting to listen to her say that a lot of people think that they can just, drive by and give food or give a blanket or, do something to help, but which is always helpful, but that doesn't actually solve the problem. And she shared a lot of stories with you, which you can watch a little clip of her too on the website. But it was personally interesting to me because that was a story I always wanted to hear. I've been wanting to hear it for the last year, because since I've been driving here for this last year, I've been seeing her at the set of lights, and I just never had the courage to go out and talk to her. So, and then after that, we talked to another man who was younger, and said that he's been in and out of jail a lot of times, and he can't find a job to pay for rent, so he's been out on the streets begging to see if he can save a little money. And it was interesting because we asked all 3 of them actually what they wanted people to know about homeless people or about stereotypes and things like that. And the young guy said that if everyone helped a little bit and just gave a few bucks, he'll be in a better situation. That he's not asking for $100, but if everybody helped out, it would help him out. And I thought it was just interesting how a younger person who's put in that kind of situation had that to say, while the woman who's been out on the streets for 8 years was, kind of hitting on the key that the government needs to do something about it, that, government officials need to provide housing, and that they need to, have money to support kind of this population and take them out of the streets, instead of just doing something every once in a while to help them out at that moment. So I thought it was interesting. I thought it was an interesting contrast between young and old, and I think that this younger men represents a lot of the people who are out on the streets now, just as the older woman represents the people who've been living and stuck in that situation, because like she said, it's almost like a domino effect. Once you hit rock bottom, it's very hard to get yourself back up. So I just wanted to share my story. I went a little longer than I thought, but that's all I had to say.